Everyone just sit quietly.
Hi, Lori. I'm Jennifer.
I know. So nice to meet you. I can't wait to get to know you.
You too.
Okay, I believe we're live. Let me just double check. Hi, everyone. All right, we're live. Hi, everyone. I'm Renee, the Practical Shaman, and I'm here with my friends, Lori Lothian, who you might all know as Lunatic Astrology. She's going to hit 1 million views this year. She's like really fame and fortune must be in that astrology chart behind her. And then Jennifer Winn is with us too. And Jennifer and I go way back because we have a history of catering in the desert together. And when she started doing these walks to Santiago and through Italy and things like that, I was like kind of like a little bit envious that she was doing that and I wasn't. And so here we are today because last week, and you all know that I'm like this marketing kind of, I'm always thinking about how we're going to sell it too. And she sends out this email, but the day before I had requested, I need an adventure. I haven't had an adventure since COVID. I need to go. And it's been that kind of year. So the next day she sends out an email, which she never does. And I wrote her immediately back and I'm there like, hey, Jen, I think I'm in. And then I wrote to Lori, hey, Lori, and she's going to tell you her story about why we're all here. And then we're going to ask Jen to tell us a little bit about this adventure that we're about ready to go on. So Lori, you want to say hello and
Yeah. Hey, hi, everybody. And the Wynn clan, who I know quite well because of my participation with many of Renee's things over the years, and all the replay people on my mail list from the astrology who will be listening later. Yeah. Well, you know something, I'm never one for last minute trips, despite all the Aries in me. And when Renee sent me a message saying on the triple Kazemi of Mercury and the Saturn, very rare event that happened last February 28th, last week. She said, like, hey, how about going on this Camino journey with Jen and I? And I'm like, I'll sleep on it. I'll dream on it. And I usually do look for omens and signs, to get my clues about what to do. And I had a really powerful dream. And I was on top of a hill and I screamed to the high hills, I'm in my true north. And that to me is like being, in alignment with one's Dharma. And I love the dream, but that's not enough. I don't go on just a dream. So the next thing that happened is that very morning after the dream, I was sitting having my morning coffee and I got a text message from a friend of mine who I haven't heard from maybe about 5 or 6 months. And I always jokingly call him Mr. El Camino because he's addicted to the El Camino journeys and goes as often as he can to cleanse his soul, as he would say in his Italian accent. And he sent me a photo, Mr. El Camino, that morning of his dog watching. He watched my puppy years ago in 2012, and he wanted to share that picture of him and the dog. And I thought that was so sweet. And I didn't really even lock and load on that. I'm like, oh, yeah, but still, really. And then I sent the photo right away to my ex-husband on WhatsApp, who's now living in Portugal because it was our dog and who's passed away now. And I said, you got to see this great picture of our old dog, when she was young. And Fergus is his name. He writes me right back on the WhatsApp app. This is all morning coffee hour. And he says, oh, what a great picture. By the way, I'm thinking I'm going to do the Camino walk. Now we have Mr. El Camino, the Camino walk. And the coup de grace is that the next day, my daughter, I was giving her a lift after she borrowed my car back to her place. And she said, Mom, I had a great lunch today on Main Street at El Camino restaurant. No, no
Oh,
kidding. She didn't even know, the El Camino thing was working on, the magic was working on me. So 3 El Camino references within 24 hours, and I'm in.
that's great. And I mean, I for some of you who've been following me, I had a really rough start to this year. In my world spin, I was learning my TED Talk. I'm, halfway through my next book, The Practical Shaman. The wind spirit cards are flowing. I had the best fire tending ceremony ever. In fact, it was so great that at the last moment, when I was closing the ceremony, the sound went silent, and it was me and my creator having this experience that everyone was watching in silence. And it was probably one of the most powerful moments that I had had. And I walked away the next day alive and not tired. And, you know, after holding space for hundreds of people to be holding the fire, it was like, well, this is really great. So I waddle on to the airport to fly to the desert, and I get stopped in my tracks with this call that somebody had died in my home. And it derailed my year. It derailed my TED Talk. It derailed my book. It derailed everything. And you know, I call it a derail. I just call it a, you know, a wind slap that was so hard that I'm there like, really, what am I doing? And so I was going to come down here and do this and then go back to, you know, Whidbey in February. And here it is March, and I'm still in the desert, and I probably won't be going back up north until after we do this walk. Because when I got your email, I had realized that I'd been moving so fast for the last 10 years that I forgot that I was so excited when you started doing these 10 years or so ago, that it was on my list of things to do. But I got so caught up in the corporate world, you know, being an executive, that now I'm kind of unwinding. I'm like, you know, a couple more years, and you know, I don't plan on doing that corporate stuff. So we're inviting you. We're going to ask Jen some questions in just 2 seconds. We're inviting our friends to walk with us. We're inviting people who have done some spiritual work, because we're not babysitting. This isn't a spiritual babysitting thing. No, no, no. We're not even upcharging this event. Lori and I are walking, and we want to walk with some people that we like, who have done work with us, who are ready to undertake this journey that Jen's going to just tell us about what she's experienced on it. But that, because 10 years ago, I wanted to do this program called Undoing. It was where I wasn't going to teach you anything, and you were going to undo yourself, and you were going to be with us. But that's not to say I'm going to, you know, I'm the author of Winds of Spirit. So we're going to start with a wind journey, and we're going to have a journey in the middle and a journey at the end. And Lori's going to do some astrology stuff, but we're not there to teach you anything. This is a self exploration, and, you know, push yourself to the limits. Is that a fair assessment, Jen? So why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah. So I'm Jennifer Winn Johnson, and I walked my first Camino in 2015 as I just say it was like a midlife crisis. I needed something dramatic. So I walked the 500 miles across Spain, and I loved it so much. And people were following me on Facebook. And when I got back, a friend of mine said, you know, you should really take people over there, because there's a lot, especially women, that want to do this that won't do it alone. So I bit the bullet and said, okay, let's try this. And people knew it was my first time doing it. I chose a route it's a good 2-week trip. We start in Porto, Portugal, and we walk up the coast of Portugal, and then we cross it. We take a ferry into Spain, and then we walk up the coast of Spain and then into Spain. It's, you know, it's about 12 days of walking. We walk about 10 miles a day. And, you know, what Lori was saying was so cool, because these are stories I hear all the time. I mean, the magic and the miracles that happen on the Camino. I could tell you so many stories, which we don't have time for, but just amazing things happen. And that was me too, Lori. Before I did it, I was like, I don't know if I should do this. And I mean, the signs and kept coming and coming and coming, and they were just undeniable. So I did it. I mean, I did it without barely any training. I mean, I signed up, and a month later I was on the trail walking, and it was just amazing. So you don't need a lot of time to plan it, because I basically planned the whole thing. But some people say, oh, I need a year to get in shape. It's like, no, you don't. Don't make an excuse.
Oh my gosh, can I just add that? Something my ex-husband said, Fergus, he said something like, I'm going to do it too, but I need, like, you know, months to get in shape.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what people think. And it's like, no, you really don't. I have had mostly women go. I've definitely had some men, but the women, I've had all ages, shapes, sizes, and they all do wonderful. on my website, if you look on my website, it says there is an option. If you're really tired one day or you just don't want to walk the whole day, there's always an option to take a cab part way of the day. And I know the route so well now that we go over each night when we meet before dinner, we go over the route for the next day. So I'll say, oh, there's a really cool cafe here. You can stop here. And if you don't want to walk any further, they'll call you a cab. So there's all kinds of options. But I'm telling you, the miracles and magic and the signs that happen are just undeniable. It's so cool.
So, let's talk about that, because you and I are, both from the cook, and Lori is a foodie
Yeah.
too. So, I mean, this food in Spain and Portugal, I mean, are we in for some, are we in for some
Oh, yeah.
treats?
Yeah, a lot of seafood because we're along the coast and then we're in the Galicia region of Spain, which they're famous for their seafood. Um, it's the Portuguese and Spanish food is really good and different. It's Spain is interesting because you'll see a lot of the same things on the menus. They don't like to be real creative. In one of the towns, I have a friend that I've met, and he actually takes us on a walk and talks about, the town. It's called Pontevedra. It's about halfway through. And that's where we do a rest day. So we do have one rest day.
Oh,
And so he's a foodie. So he's always like, oh, there's a new restaurant we got to go to, Jen. And if you like wine, I mean, the wines there are amazing.
Hello,
yeah,
it's me.
I told Lori, oh yeah, I said Jen's a wine girl. You'll be happy with that. Like, I'm a
Yeah,
non-drinker,
the wines,
so.
I mean, house wine. You don't have to go fancy. It's house wine and it's like €2 a glass, it's just the prices are great. Um, and it's just a stunningly beautiful walk. I mean, the first days starting in Porto, Portugal, which has become one of my favorite cities. It's just such a wonderful city. It's on the Douro River and it's got all the port houses lining the river. So if you've never been there, that's a real treat. I always say get there at least a day early. And then we walk up the coast of Portugal for, I think, 5 days. And then we walk up the coast of Spain, and then it goes into the inner Spain and it meets up with the central coast Camino, because there's routes that come from all over Europe. There's all different Camino routes. So then they meet up, and then it's like, oh, there's just pilgrims from all over the world. And, you meet people, and the Camino greeting is Bien Camino. So it's just such a cool thing. And there was a meme that I just saw, and it was people walking the Camino, and they say, the Camino is how God wants you to be with each other.
Oh, I love that. And Jen, this is a small group, right? Only 18 or so of us. Is that correct?
Yeah, 18 if that. I'm hoping people will share rooms, because then we can take a few more people, because it's not necessarily the amount of people, it's the amount of rooms, because some of the inns that we stay in are small. And this past one I did in October, we had 22 people, and it was a few too many. I mean, we had to like split up different hotels, and but it worked. It always works. It's like I said, I just put it out there and say, okay, let's do it.
And so, what I was thinking is that, like, people, we'll have like another, once people start signing up, we'll have another planning Zoom, and I'm sure you have a packing list and whatnot to bring
Yep.
list and all of that kind of stuff. And then, so in addition, just curious, like, so for people who are planning, people will say, oh, well, it's a lot of money. Well, yeah, like, you could go walk closer to home, but this is a farther walk. And so it does cost some money. And I've checked into my own flights, and they're substantial. So what?
Flights are high right now because so many people want to go to Europe right now
Mhm.
because of
So what
COVID.
would you say besides for, like, this fee covers all the rooms, some meals, about how
Yeah.
much additional money do people really need to plan for?
Well, obviously you need to get your flight over. I think on this one I've included 5 dinners with house wine. And then the other towns that meals aren't included, it's because they're bigger towns and there are choices. And at that point, people do kind of like, we don't all walk together. Like, I don't hold up a flag and say, follow me, because everybody's on their own. Yeah. And it's very well marked, it's very safe. So people, you can walk, a lot of people want to walk alone for part of the day, and then they might meet up with the couple and walk for an hour with somebody. And then, so it's kind of the same with meals. You definitely can have lunch along the way, or when you get to the town, you can have a later lunch and a lighter dinner. There's tons of food choices. There's also markets along the way where you can buy snacks, and you can load up on fruit and things you want to maybe take during the day.
I have a question too. So what I
Mhm.
like about your organizing the trip, and I'm pretty sure I got this right. Like if I was to go by myself, like my ex-husband wanted to do, he's like, and I have to carry a heavy backpack with all my worldly possessions. That's not the case, right? You're going to get our luggage ahead of us. Is that correct?
Yeah. So yes, definitely. I had these 2 younger gals that didn't. They go, "This is like the bougie Camino," and I said, "Exactly." So we have to have our luggage down at reception every morning at 8 o'clock, and then by the time we get to the hotel, our luggage is there waiting for us. So we just walk with a day pack. And I still suggest that you pack really light. I've had people come with way too many. They're in a different outfit every day. And I'm like, you don't need to do that. It's the Camino. Just pack light. But but yeah, everything's planned. I mean, I've got all the hotels. I got everybody booked into the hotels, and the hotels are a mix, obviously, because we're in a different hotel every night. So, I mean, hopefully we'll be able to stay in a Parador, which is, the nice government run places that used to be big, forts and have a history to them. And then we stay in some Casa Rurals, which are kind of, just gorgeous places out in the middle of wherever. And they make wonderful meals for us. There's one at the end that they make this huge pan of paella for us. And it's yeah, it's just wonderful. It's so hard to describe because there's so many stories. I think this will be like my 8th time on this route. So there's just story after story.
That's what
Uh,
I like about this too. My friend Giorgio, Mr. El Camino, that's what he says every time he comes back. And then you can have dinner. Like we always get together after one of his Camino trips, and then he'll tell you the stories that will make your mind like a
yeah,
whoa.
yeah,
Synchronicity. It's a synchronicity that
yes,
increases so profoundly. You have a question about your life direction, you'll bump into somebody on the trail who has your answer.
that's exactly right. I mean, I lost my iPad one day. We got lost. A group of us got lost. I lost my iPad, and I was like, oh my God, my life's on my iPad. And this guy, we were in this little town, and this guy, I was like, let it go, let it go. And this guy came and found me in this shop, like out of nowhere, running up there with my iPad. And I'm like, oh my God, we were all like, we were like crying. They're like, now that's a miracle. Like, how did that happen?
Oh, I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. It is a miracle that we get signs at all in life and then it gets amplified. I just wanted to mention, I mean, about my feelings about this. Like, I'm loving that I'm with you because you're experienced, you've got the lay of the land, the bougie version's good for me. But I also I'm so excited because I want to share with you, Jen, in more detail when we're together and everyone, like, there's an amazing sky too. Like, the timing that you chose has this Venus in the heart of the sun star point.
Yeah.
But yeah, on June the 4th. And it's powerful because it's got a rare combination of factors in which the where Venus is sitting with the sun is also watched over by protective Jupiter, the greater
Wow.
benefic fairy godfather, Santa Claus, guru energy, and then Mercury as well. It's like the divine messenger Mercury with the greatest protection and goodness and wisdom and truth of Jupiter, and then Venus. What do you really want? What do you really desire? What makes your heart truly sing? And these are all like together as we're journeying in
Wow.
the sky, and they're invisible. And these invisible planets, and it's not that common three are invisible at once. is that they're like your inner guide, your inner guru, your inner knowing, your inner messenger. It's all very in that space where it invites the inward journey.
Mm.
That's amazing. I know Renee said something about that, and you're like, you're not going to believe the timing with, with Lori and the astrology. And I'm like, oh my gosh, isn't it wild how, and talking about, like the miracles, like I've exhausted all my friends and family have come on the Camino and they've all loved it. I was like, I kind of said a prayer, like, I need some help on this one because I only have a couple people signed up. And then I just got this hit. It's like, send out a MailChimp. You can figure it out this time because I'm like so non-techie. And then it was like, boom, I got this email from Renee and she's like, well, I can get lots of people and Lori wants to go and she can get people. And I'm like, see, it's always meant to be.
And I can't think of people that I'd rather walk with than the two of you. And,
Yeah,
like
thanks.
Laura just said, your experience, I'm more practical. How many pairs of shoes will I need?
Well, you want a good pair of shoes. You don't really need a heavy duty hiking boot. This is not hiking over big mountains like the 500-mile one was. This is flat with some hills and valleys. So I just wear like a good kind of runner shoe, like a tennis shoe. And then I usually switch because I love like Tiva sandals and Chaco sandals. So I have like an athletic sandal that I'll change into like halfway through the day. And then I just have like a pair of Birkenstocks or something to wear at night, once you finish your walk for the day. So 3 is ideal if you have the space. Some people just do, your runner shoe and like a nice sandal to wear at night. For laundry, there are laundromats along the way, and some of the hotels will do laundry. I've always just kind of washed out my underwear in the sink at night or in the shower. I throw them in the shower with me. And I've never really had an issue. Some people are really particular, like they won't wear anything 2 days in a row. That's not me, but there are options for laundry. So
That's good to know. All right. Was there anything else that we're forgetting that that we should be like, should we do should we do a little wind whistle to manifest who's supposed to come with us?
Let's do that. Let's also remind people before the wind whistle goes off, right? That, you can get your own signs, re-listeners in the Wind Clan and my astrology crew that will receive this replay. You go inward and do what I did, what you know how to do, which is to listen inward for the signs, because if you're called, you're called. And if you're not, you're not, so you'll know, right?
Right. Like I knew
yeah,
immediately when I got that was the email I was waiting for. And I knew it was just like, yep, that's what I'm doing.
yeah.
And it wasn't even
And
a second thought.
one thing is, I mean, we're still 3 months out from the trip, but there's a point there's a point we will have to cut it off.
Okay.
Because we'll have enough people or it gets crazy for me because I'm dealing with like 12 different hotels. So if people are straggling at the last minute, it's like I've got to make sure every single hotel has, another room or so I say as soon as you get that sign, just sign up. You won't regret.
Seeing on Facebook and all these other places where people keep talking about like today, my stepsister-in-law, their windshield keeps breaking in their RV and they've been stuck in the parking lot of the RV manufacturer for 3 weeks. And
Oh
then
my
I was
gosh.
talking to a minister yesterday who thought she was going to have this place to live and she doesn't. And I really believe that we're at the pivotal doorway where we need to learn how to pivot and to trust that spirit's like giving
Yeah.
you these tests. Can you switch up and stay in the desert? I'm going to take care of you. And there's all of these miracles like this journey that we're going on. But are you that fixed point on the compass that you can't pivot? I think that this trip is going to be about learning how to pivot, learning how to answer those inner calls, so that what Lori's saying is that when you go deep into what's truly in your heart's calling, and she tells us that we won't even know that answer until we're finished with the walk, and sometime in July, you're
Yeah.
going to understand
Yeah.
what that was all about. But
Yeah.
are you willing to answer this call for yourself? Because those other ideas that we have so fixed in time are falling apart right
Yeah.
before our very eyes.
Yeah. And
exactly what you said, Renee. I mean, you might not know what's going on in the Camino, but then like 2 months later, be like, oh, that's why that happened. That's why I had a conversation. Yeah.
yeah. And in the astrology, that's also because Venus won't be visible till the very end of July. And she's the one that's doing the magic on the job, when we're walking. But I also want to say one more thing before we call in the wind is that, I remember doing things like this before where I went on a group event and I remember being afraid to click the share room box, because I'm a very private person and shy, believe it or not. And one of the best things that ever happened to me on a group thing, where I went off and did an event traveling with groups of people. Anyway, I clicked the share room box because less money, right? And one of my best friends ever, Haumea, is because I shared a room with that woman, in 2017. So, don't be afraid if you're listening and going, it's expensive and you're afraid to be in a room with some stranger. That's even the magic there. Who do you get to share that room with? Who's in your destiny?
That's a great point. And also I wanted to say, if anybody has any questions or wants to talk to me privately, I'm always available for that. So, and we can definitely do, once people sign up, we can do another Zoom with questions. And then you're right, Renee, about a month out, I send out the packing list and suggestions and whatnot.
Jen, there's people reminding you that May's under 3 months now. So, get on this dream. So I want to just tell you, the wind that I just pulled, I very rarely pull from the wind. There's winds Lori knows she pulls winds all the time. There's winds she gets a lot, and then there's winds that you don't get very often. And I just picked Enlil, the Mesopotamian wind of destiny. You request Enlil to help you align with your hidden forces of fate and fortress. And not only with that, it was Enlil in the north. The appearance of Enlil as a north wind indicates that invisible spiritual forces are at work in your life. It is time to trust in the power of the divine. Know that Enlil protects your destiny, which you will attain when conditions are ideal.
Oh my God. Can I share? Can I share? I just wrote my newsletter like an hour before this call that I'm sending this replay out with. And I just finished the newsletter with the word destiny. It's like an hour ago.
And she just said destiny too. So I'm going to blow the wind whistle. So everyone close your eyes who's listening, listening later or listening at some other point, and see if Enlil is calling to you to join us on this journey.
Were we supposed to hear the whistle?
Oh, you didn't hear it?
I didn't. Did you hear it, Jen?
No, I did, and I kept opening my eyes going, am I supposed to be hearing this?
Wait, it's the silent wind of destiny.
That's so you would have had to feel that wind. I'm having some issues with the sharing of the screen, but should I redo it?
Well, maybe not. Maybe the magic is it's the inner wind that we hear with our inner ears.
It could be, and
I like
that's
that.
like the craziest thing. But that's just how this year is going. And if your year is going that way, trust in your own inner wind, because Enlil is the winds of destiny is an inner wind. Crazy.
Yeah.
We're going to have a fun time, guys. We're going to have a fun time on this trip.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. I mean, and spring, let me just tell you, spring is so beautiful there. It stays light really late and all the wildflowers are in bloom. I mean, huge hydrangea bushes in every color, and the wildflowers are just amazing. So,
Well, that's awesome. And I'm very excited about it. And everyone who's listening, we will hopefully hear from you that you're interested, and we're here to answer questions, and we will talk to you all soon.
Wonderful.
okay.